All right, this is a Peter on Tour exclusive deep dive into Eger. Some cities are places you just visit, but others are stories you actually step right into. Eger in Hungary is definitely one of those. It's a town where the history isn't locked away behind glass. It's in the wine you drink, it's on the castle walls, and it's absolutely in the spirit of the people. So let's get into the story of Eger.
To really get Eger, you have to understand one single year, 1552. Seriously, if you mention Eger to any Hungarian, the first thing they'll talk about is the siege. This isn't just some old event from a textbook. It's a foundational story, a moment that literally forged a national identity of resilience against impossible odds. It's the key that unlocks everything else about this incredible place.
So, let's jump back to that defining moment. We are talking about a battle so legendary that every single schoolchild in Hungary still learns about it. It's the story of a small, out-of-the-way fortress that decided to stand up to one of the most powerful empires on the entire planet.
Now get this picture in your head. Inside the castle walls, you had just over 2,000 people. And this wasn't just a professional army. It was a mix of soldiers and, well, regular townspeople, all led by a guy named Captain Esteban Dobo, basically staring down the inevitable.
And on the other side, an absolutely overwhelming force. We're talking up to 40,000 Ottoman soldiers, an army that had basically conquered its way across Europe. Look, by any rational calculation, Eger should have fallen in a couple of days, tops. It was undermanned, undersupplied, it was a complete mismatch.
But it didn't fall. For 39 brutal, non-stop days, this small garrison just refused to break. They held the line. But the real story here isn't just that they held out. It's how on earth they managed to do it.
Looking at this old engraving, you get a sense of the fortress they were defending. But its strength wasn't just in its stone walls, not by a long shot. Its true strength was in what one historian called the genius of desperation.
And this is where things get really wild. A lieutenant named Gergely Bornemissa basically became this mad scientist of warfare. They didn't just have swords, no, they invented primitive grenades. They rigged up powder kegs to act as impact bombs. And, this is my personal favorite, they packed giant watermill wheels with explosives and just rolled them downhill into the attacking forces. This was desperate, brilliant, and honestly, terrifying innovation.
And then there was one last critical piece to their defense. During the final all-out assault by the Ottomans, it wasn't just soldiers on these walls. The women of Eger joined the fight. They were pouring boiling water, hot pitch, rocks, anything they could get their hands on, down onto the soldiers climbing the ladders. It was a total defense by the entire community, and it worked. The Ottomans just gave up. They withdrew, completely defeated.
That incredible victory gave birth to an equally incredible legend, one that, believe it or not, flows from the city's wine cellars even today, and it tells the story of Eger's most famous drink.
So the story goes that Ottoman soldiers saw the defenders with these red-stained beards and became convinced they were drinking actual bull's blood for supernatural strength. It's a fantastic tale. The only problem? It's not true. I mean, they didn't even make deep red wine here back in 1552, and the name bull's blood or Eger Bikaver doesn't show up in writing until centuries later. But here's what's so important. The legend perfectly captures the spirit of the city. It's a story that just feels true, even if it isn't, factual.
Today, that story is literally bottled. Eger Bikaver is way more than just a wine. It's an officially protected national treasure, a Hungarian. It's this complex, spicy red blend that has to follow super strict rules to even carry the name. The legend kind of became reality in a different way. It's now a true symbol of Hungarian culture itself.
Now, while the defenders of 1552 were victorious, the Ottomans did eventually come back, and they occupied Eger for 91 years. And that occupation, followed by this flourishing Catholic resurgence, left its mark all over the city, creating a totally fascinating architectural landscape.
And you can see this contrast everywhere in Eger. On one hand, you've got the stark, elegant lines of the Ottoman minaret, a leftover from almost a century of occupation. And then on the other, you have the lavish, over-the-top detail of the Baroque fazola gates. These two styles just exist side by side, telling the city's complex story on every single street corner. If you're feeling brave, you can actually climb that 40-meter minaret. But I'll warn you, it is a tight squeeze up 98 dizzyingly steep, kind of claustrophobic stone steps. It really feels like you're climbing right back into the 17th century. But what happened after the Ottomans left is just as telling.
Legend says that they tried to pull the minaret down with 400 oxen, but it wouldn't budge. So instead of destroying it, the people of Eger just placed a cross right on top of the crescent. It's this incredibly powerful symbol, a choice to incorporate history rather than just trying to erase it. Okay, so we've seen the history on the walls and in the streets, but to really truly get to the heart of Eger, we have to go somewhere unique, a place where history becomes something you can experience with all your senses.
Because in Eger, the final chapter of this incredible story isn't meant to be read, it's meant to be tasted. This is where the history, the land, and the culture all come together, right there in a glass.
Welcome to Passenvi, the Valley of the Beautiful Women. Now, this isn't some tourist park. It's a living, breathing community of about 200 wine cellars, all tunneled directly into the volcanic hillside. These are family-run operations, places where generations have perfected their craft, and they're offering absolutely world-class wine at prices that feel like a secret you've just been let in on.
And this quote just captures the experience perfectly. You're not just tasting fruit and oak. You're tasting the volcanic soil, the centuries of tradition, and the passion of the very person who is pouring your glass. You are literally tasting the story of Eger.
And so, we come full circle. From the valley, you can look up and see the castle still standing guard over the city. That unbreakable spirit from 1552 is still here, not just in the stone walls, but down in the wine cellars and in the character of the city it continues to protect.
So, what if a city was a story you could actually taste? Well, Eger is the answer to that question. It's a place that proves history isn't static. It's a living narrative you can walk through, marvel at, and ultimately, taste for yourself.
To walk these castle walls and taste this history yourself, head on over to peterontour.com for the full guide. Thanks for joining me.